On a beautiful sunny day in March 1979, as thousands of Egyptians awaited in anticipation, a plane landed in Cairo. Moments later, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat stepped out, welcomed by thunderous cheers from an overjoyed crowd. He had just returned to his country from Washington, D.C., where 5 days earlier he had signed a historic treaty with Israeli Prime Minister Menachem and U.S. President Jimmy Carter, bringing an end to 3 decades of war and hostilities between Israelis and Egyptians. Few moments in the history of this region were as momentous and poignant as the signing of this treaty, the first between Israel and any Arab country, and Egyptians across the country hailed Sadat as their hero and expressed pride in their leader, the bringer of peace. Egypt had good reason to celebrate the treaty. Since 1948, the country joined other Arab states and went to war with Israel on 4 occasions: the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, the 1956 War, the 1967 Six-Day War, and the 1973 Yom Kippur War. All were ultimately unsuccessful in fully defeating Israel, and Egypt, of all the Arab states, experienced the heaviest losses, both in human casualties and financially. It was Sadat's deep-seated resolve and the will of the Egyptian people that forged the path to the unprecedented normalization of relations between Israel and an Arab country. Pride in and respect for Anwar Sadat was not limited to his people either, as much of the world touted Sadat as a great world leader and peacemaker. Together with Begin, Sadat was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1978 for their efforts in negotiating the peace treaty. Sadat was applauded by leaders of democratic nations across the world, and he opened up a new chapter of Egyptian foreign relations, establishing the country as a modernized and stable power in the historically tumultuous Middle East. As a result of his efforts, Sadat, in 1981, at the age of 62, was hailed as the architect of a new Mid-East and ranked as a dominant and often dazzling figure on the stage of international politics. Yet only 10 years earlier, he was being mocked by world leaders as a clown, and in 1970, when Sadat was Egypt's vice president, his predecessor as president mocked him as Old Goha, a legendary victim or fall guy in Egyptian folklore. He once said that Sadat's greatest ambition is to own a big automobile and have the government pay for the gasoline. A significant figure in his own right, Sadat was determined to set himself apart, but he was often compared to his good friend and predecessor, Gamal Abdel Nasser. However, this was a man who was passionate about more than just peace. He fought diligently for the stabilization and growth of his country, for the implementation of a wide-reaching open-door economic policy, and for the strengthening of the Egyptian culture, spirit, and nation. Though he was often seen as the protégé of Nasser, and he certainly was, he proved to be much more than that, as he made a significant effort to emerge from his predecessor's shadow. As with many historic moments that inspired significant change, not everyone was supportive of Sadat's peace efforts. Only 2 years after the signing of the Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty, President Sadat was assassinated by members of an Islamic fundamentalist group, the Egyptian Islamic Jihad, in October 1981. As a president who succeeded the revolutionary Gamal Abdel Nasser and was succeeded by the long-reigning Hosni Mubarak, Sadat and his legacy are often overshadowed by the forceful prowess and authoritative legacies of Nasser and Mubarak, his presidency reduced to the peace treaty and the subsequent Nobel Prize he received. In fact, Sadat appeared to have suffered from a misrepresented image for much of his military and political career.